All right. Happy Wednesday. Man, what a day. All kinds of things happening out there in the crypto world. Some big news just to start things off with. If you have been living under a rock and you don't know, Ripple did apply for their banking charter. Well, they announced it today. So I don't know when they actually applied for it, but they have announced that they have applied for a OCC regulated banking charter. We currently partner, as many of you know, with Anchorage Digital, who is the only current federally chartered bank here in the U.S. that custodies digital assets for our clients at Digital Wealth Partners, provide institutional grade custody with them. Ripple will be leveraging Standard Custody, a New York corporation that has a BIT license up there that they purchased back in 24 for their custody solution here domestically, and that OCC charter that I think that they will get. And there's a lot of speculation, conjecture around the fact that they might end up becoming a central bank or the new Federal Reserve. I don't know if that ends up being the case or not. Excuse me, but we'll see. Pretty exciting. Honestly, I wasn't sure they were going to go this path, and I've talked about that before. And the reason for that is they provide a lot of services to other banks with their software and infrastructure. And so because of that, now they will, I don't know that they'll be competing directly with them, but I knew that if they did go this direction, it would be the last thing on the list for them to do. And the reason for that is that it becomes very cumbersome once you're regulated by the OCC. It is not a, you don't get to move very quickly on things once that happens. We've experienced that in working with Anchorage. They've been fantastic partners, but they just have a lot of red tape and regulation and hoops that they have to jump through in order to make things happen or move forward in certain areas. Do this real quick. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Oh, it was going to drive me nuts if I didn't go do that. Okay. So, big news there that Ripple has announced that. And again, you know, I've talked about this before, but I think it would be the last thing that they would do. So this is kind of, in my opinion, the final piece to their puzzle and what they've been trying to accomplish over the last more than a decade since they were founded in 2014. Been around a long time, been around 12 years almost, building out this infrastructure for the back end of banks and the ability to leverage the XRPL and distributed ledger technology at scale globally with all of their counterparties and integrations that they have. And yeah, I'm super bullish now that they've made the acquisition of Hidden Road a little bit earlier this year for 1.25 billion. That's a prime brokerage. So that is there's never been a acquisition of a prime broker that wasn't owned by a bank. And so for them to make that announcement today, it's very much in line with what the regulators would want to see from them, and also gives them some leverage in maybe expediting the approval of their banking charter, because they do own a prime brokerage there with Hidden Road. So super exciting for the space, for XRP holders. And I've talked about this before. Anything to do with Ripple can't cause price appreciation. We haven't seen the price really move much on the news that was announced today. Where are we at? We're like 225, 224 here. Not like we saw a big spike or a giant move. We did see a move earlier in the day before that was announced of about, I don't know, 2%, 3%, nothing crazy. So up on the day, always nice to see some green in your portfolio. But with that, I think things are about to move here. Everything seems to be lining up Still waiting on oil, still waiting on the reverse carry trade, still waiting on a lot of the pieces. We did see Celsius granted the ability to go after Tether today in like a $4.8 billion lawsuit for the Bitcoin that's on their balance sheet, which was already in limbo, but now green lighted, I believe, by New York for them to pursue that. So I don't know if that pulls Tether here. Still a little bit fuzzy on how Tether gets wrapped in and blows up on this deal, but I can tell you I'm pretty confident that either they're sanctioned or frozen. There's going to be some catalyst that involves Tether and has implications for Bitcoin in a large move lower in the market. So waiting on that one. I think that's going to be a big shoe to drop when it happens. A lot of people have asked in the past, do I see, price moving down from here? It's possible, but I think it will move up quickly after that. And I'm not overly confident that you'll be able to make a large purchase if the market did move lower. The reason for that being Tether is the majority of the liquidity in crypto. And if they're not able to transact in large numbers because Tether is no longer available, either through, again, sanctions or freezing of accounts or whatever it is. Oh, thank you, babe. My wonderful wife with the tea, as usual. She's fantastic. Keep me from coughing. So I think that's coming. And I do think that's going to have implications for Bitcoin, and I do think that's going to have implications for the broader stock market. And now that we've seen the ETFs grow as large as they have, and there's exposure for pension funds and sovereign wealth funds, and we've got strategic reserve for the U.S., and we've got other large treasuries purchasing Bitcoin and putting it on their balance sheet. There's definitely systemic risk for Bitcoin. And if they need to de-risk from that real time because there's unrealized losses, you're going to need some way to do that and be able to settle instantly on the back end of the stock market, which we've talked about at length. Now that Ripple has a prime brokerage, I don't know if you guys know what a prime broker does, but that is what they do. They do settlement between clearinghouses and brokers. So anyway, hopefully they're able to implement XRP in that capacity, along with Project Ion for the settlement real time back there between the clearinghouses and the brokers. And we would need liquidity in XRP to be able to do that. Same thing we've got a lot of people anticipating, we've talked about ISO 20022 lots of times. There are a lot of people that talk about different tokens being compliant with that. That's not the case. There are no ISO 20022 tokens. It is a messaging standard for the banks that it's a prerequisite for instant settlement. And there can be software that's been developed by Ripple and Stellar that leverage digital assets for the settlement component within those transactions. And the software that they've developed and utilized with the banks is compliant to that standard. So just, again, I talk about this in the mastermind, but I don't know that I've talked about it publicly recently, and we do have a large number of people who are watching. So just when you're having conversations, realize that you can, kind of, I won't say dumb it down. That's not the right verbiage, but simplify things by stating that it's ISO compliant. But in reality, there is some nuance there that you probably need to understand if somebody does have a better understanding of the banking system and what that actually means. So we had a couple of people ask on TikTok over here about LLCs. We've made a few posts out there on Twitter about the LLCs and some of the benefits that you get from moving your assets into that. So talk on that, and then we'll hop into the questions here. As price appreciation approaches, hopefully you are being proactive. If there's one thing that I would say is above everything else, it's not the LLC. It's educating yourself and understanding what you need or could be looking at, the different professionals you need to surround yourself with, different tools that you're going to have at your disposal on the other side of price appreciation. The more that you can educate yourself now for what that's going to look like and just go ahead and step into that version of yourself, the better off you're going to be when that happens. if you're caught off guard, if you're on your back foot, if you haven't put in the work over the past, 3, 4, 5, 7 years here, however long you've been in the space, to prepare yourself for that amount of wealth. I don't want people to end up like lottery winners. Most lottery winners go bankrupt within 3 to 5 years after winning the lottery. And I really don't wish that on anybody in the XRP family or the XRP community, or some of these other digital assets that I think are going to perform really well. So, again, we have services and products and provide education in the mastermind when it comes to all that stuff. You don't have to work with us. I just want to be clear about that. But I would encourage you to go out and seek resources and start educating yourself on life insurance, different types of trusts that you can set up, foundations, endowments, insurance direct funds, which is something we're going to be looking at setting up in the near future. DAFs, which are donor advised funds for investments on the other side of price appreciation. Somebody asked me about a charitable remainder trust earlier today. That can be a tool. You're not going to be able to hold digital assets in that, but if you plan to cash out and you want to mitigate taxes, it could be a good strategy. Mark Kohler is on YouTube and talks about that a lot. Most of the other estate planners out there are, I don't want to say advocating for taking profits and selling off your positions, but they just assume that that is most people's choice. They don't know that there are other options out there where you'll be able to borrow against your digital assets at reasonable interest rates. We're curating those opportunities with our partners right now. Still in mid to high teens for the interest rates on most borrowing on digital assets. However, strategic partnerships that we've recently formed should bring that down into the single digits, mid to high single digits in the near future. XRP and Bitcoin and a few others included. So, and that'll be done inside institutional custody. Also working on some basic yield products that are as risk-free as you can get, kind of like a CD or a money market for your XRP or your Bitcoin, held there at Digital Wealth Partners with Digital Wealth Partners at Anchorage. Maybe, now that Ripple's announced this application for their federal bank charter, maybe they'll entertain working with us again. We were actually 2 years ago their only wealth management client there at Standard Custody before that was sold off to Ripple in 24. So, or I guess it was late 23 when that happened, and then we moved our assets off of that platform in 24 over to Anchorage. So maybe they'll have us back. They've reached out a little while back and mentioned that that might be the case. And so with this, hopefully, maybe they'll circle back and we can partner with them in that capacity. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think people would have a warm and fuzzy if we were holding their assets there in standard custody with Ripple. So if you're listening, Ripple, open to that conversation if it makes sense. So back to the LLCs. There's a lot of reasons that you might go ahead and do that now versus later. One, season in bank accounts, have a longer standing history for credit, just basic things that you can think about, right? Like the longer you've had a corporation, the more willing people are to loan to you. If you're looking for an SBA loan or something else, you need 2 years worth of financials for a business. The longer that you've had good standing and had something around, the more willing people are to work with you. Things that are quickly set up and then, you're trying to move large amounts of money through something, people look at that as a little bit fishy. It throws up some red flags. So if you have already established an LLC, 6-8 months, and you've set up a bank account, you had some transactions roll through it, when you do take a large profit or get a large distribution from your investments, it's going to be less likely that they're going to flag it or freeze those funds and question you. In addition to that, the anonymity that you're going to get from an LLC is extremely important on the other side of price appreciation. The privacy that you're going to get if you work with us or another good attorney to make sure that your filings don't have any of your information on them there in Wyoming. You could also use Nevada or South Dakota or maybe Delaware. Those are 3 other jurisdictions that people leverage for attorney-client privilege on their LLC. You don't have to reside in the state that you file the LLC in. You can use a registered agent. That's what we do. So you pay them a fee each year to use their address on your stuff, and that's how that works. This person's asked what is the discount code for the LLC. So it's 50 off, 50 OFF DAG, like Digital Ascension Group behind me there, LLC, like Limited Liability Company. So it's 50 off DAG LLC. Get you everything that you need to manage your digital assets through a holding company that manages alternative investments with a specific allocation to digital assets for just $2,000. So we normally charge $4,000. If you go to any attorney that's actually going to do this correctly, it's going to be at least $4,000 just for the operating agreement alone that we provide you a template for. It's, you could still work with an attorney and add other language to it if you wanted to. Then this person said that they've sent some emails and they haven't got a response yet. We have been inundated with a lot of people. If you need help completing the LLC, you are eligible for a consult. You should have received a link in your operating agreement when they sent you the rest of the paperwork, where you should be able to book a time for a call with our team to walk through things if you need that. So I understand that if you've sent a bunch of emails, just give us 24 hours to respond. Normally our SLA is like 3 to 4 hours max, but we have had 7,000 emails the last 2 weeks, which is a bit more than we're used to. We've added additional resources to be able to cover that difference, and I apologize for any delays in communications. We're doing the best that we can with what we have, and I will take responsibility. I did not allocate enough resources ahead of time for the specials that we ran. They did much better than we anticipated, and that's my fault on not being as prepared as we should have been for that. So I apologize. But again, we've added resources. They're being trained up, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. But if you do want the LLC, and again, we've set up a ton of them at this point. We've set up more holding companies that manage digital assets than any other corporation in the U.S. We've done more asset protection trusts than any other corporation in the U.S. for digital assets. We are, which is wild to say, the authority when it comes to this because of the amount that we've done and the people that we're working with. So if you want, the best in class, most provisions in the operating agreement, best understanding, the best professionals to work with, and I have a bias on this, obviously. I would say that it is us. If you wanted something similar to the service that we provide, there are a few other. Actually, there's only one other family office in the U.S. that does this, and you're going to need at least 100,000. Well, sorry, excuse me, not 100,000, $100 million in Bitcoin to work with them. They're out of Colorado. So, anyway, again, if you do want to work with us on the LLC, we would love to work with you. This person's asked, what would be a good amount to start that process at? If you got at least $50,000 to $80,000 invested in crypto, that would be the time when you might start considering an LLC. 50,000 if you're single, 80,000 if you're married. And the reason for that is the gift tax threshold here in the U.S. is 13.99 million per person. So between you and your spouse, you get about $28 million that you can gift over your lifetime out of your taxable estate into a trust or some other option. And again, with the appreciation I think we're going to see on the asset, or the assets that you may own, that's about where I think it starts to make sense to be proactive and set these things up. Anything less than that, don't worry about an LLC yet. Just keep dollar cost averaging. Your money would be better spent buying and investing more than paying us for the LLC, or working with an attorney to set up the LLC. But again, anytime you're going to pay for education or knowledge, I think that's a fantastic investment. And I think there was a group there was a couple the other day that asked us, would it be better to spend $10,000 for my wife to get a certification and a better education on real estate investments, or invest it in XRP? And that's a hard one for me, to be honest with you. I think the ROI in the immediate term could possibly be better on the XRP, but your ability to earn income over your lifetime would probably win out in the long term. So any time you can compound and get more education and a higher skill set for yourself to be able to generate more income, I would probably go with that over short-term investments, which is, wild to say. Like I said, I'm all in XRP, but anytime you can bring up your ability to earn or generate more value in society to earn a higher income, I think that probably wins out over the long term. This person says, do you know any companies in Louisiana that can do what y'all do? I don't meet y'all's requirements. There are 0 other companies that do what we do. We are it. It is a blue ocean. There's nobody else in the market that is doing anything close to what we're doing. We're out ahead of people. I think we have 6 to 18 months before anybody else is able to replicate what we've done or come and compete with us. And we're urgently moving as fast as we can to make sure that we are staying out ahead of those people. We've talked with the investment banks and other people in that lane. And based on the conversations with Citi, Goldman, Bank of America, Chase, they are all 12 to 18 months away from having anything akin to what we're doing. So the answer is no. I do not know anybody in Louisiana, nor do I know anybody else globally that is doing anything close to what we're doing, which is, again, wild to say. That we're the leader in this space. Super humbling. And just, again, appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening to come on here and ask questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the questions. I've just been rambling on for the first 20 minutes here. We've got Nick with the super chat. What's going on, brother? He says, "G'day, legend." What's up, Nick? He's from Australia. He said, "Whiskey time. Cheers, brother. Bring your raincoat to Sydney. Been big storms. What things do you see happening in July? Long live the banter and the tea lady." Love it, dude. She probably will outlive me. She's older than me. My wife is 6 years older than me, for y'all that don't know. A 5.5. I'll give her the half. 5.5. July is going to be a really good month, I think. Again, I'm not a chart guy, but I watch Blockchain Backer, and he's got things lined out that say we should move substantially higher very quickly in the short term, like days type deal. He's on the edge of his seat when Blockchain Backer says it's time to get bullish, because he never says it's time to get bullish. He's always like, well, this could happen or that could happen. Or when he has enough confluence to say it's bullish time, it's bullish time, in my opinion. So looking for a big move higher in the market here, XRP included in that. ETFs, we've got all of these other things lined up here, stablecoin regulation, potential implications for Tether, the reverse carry trade, all this stuff lining up at the same time. Maybe we'll have a fun 4th. This person says, "I'm wondering about July 4th. I'm wondering about July 4th too. I don't know if you guys were here. Many of you may have been. I was here in 2020. And it was again, this is the tinfoil hat stuff, okay? So just bear with me for a second. Take it with a grain of salt. XRP's price on July 4th in 2020 was 17.76 cents. XLM's price on July 4th of 2020 was 1.776 cents. And silver's price on July 4th in 2020 was $17.76. Pretty weird. That seems manipulated to me. So maybe that was a wink and a nod that, 4 years later, 5 years later, there would be something that happens on July 4th. We got the big, beautiful bill that's supposed to be passing. Funny that the alliteration that it goes along with is kind of like Build Back Better. Just weird stuff that make you go, Anyway, so we've got those things. We've got a lot happening here in July. Maybe it'll be Christmas in July there in Australia. for you guys. Hopefully we get some, maybe a little bit of price appreciation that we get to celebrate here. We got Wayne. What's up, Wayne? He says, what interest rate drop will take to trigger the reverse carry trade? Also, if Tether is sanctioned from the Stablecoin Act, causing Bitcoin to fall 30 to 50%, will all coins drop? Huge, huge. It's huge, including XRP. PAS, check your email. Thanks. My personal email or the info email? Because if it's my personal email, I'm down to 15 emails in my inbox right now, which is unusual. But I will check it. So reverse carry trade, you need bond rates in Japan to spike, and you need interest rates in Japan to spike. And the reason for that, so even if we lowered rates here, you would need rates moving higher there in Japan for people to flee from US treasuries into Japanese bonds. There needs to be an aggressive move higher in those for people to move from one to the other. It could be both of those things at the same time, shifting in the market where we get a reduction in a rate here and an increase in a rate there. The oil would do that, right? So that's why I'm so consistent that I think oil will play a role in this, and energy cost moving very quickly to the higher side there in Japan. We saw some oil tankers from Russia attacked today or blown up. I saw, and again, like this is all just stuff you see out there on Twitter. You don't know if it's true or not, but like that's where I get my world news from. Also, I trust that more than I do CNN or Fox or any of these other news sources. So probably accurate that did happen today to those oil tankers coming out of Russia. But I think that's still going to be the catalyst, which would cause the bond rates there in Japan to hike, and you would see a huge move as people divested from treasuries, sold those onto the market, which would put pressure on our treasury market and push them to pass the stablecoin bill. And then, all of the people that were holding bonds there in US bonds would move those into Japanese bonds and support their own economy, which would be great for Japan. Would also de-risk them from the dollar and allow them the separation, and hopefully their economy to improve. I think that they're going to be in a really good position to have some pretty significant returns in the Nikkei and their global, presence over the next decade after this shift happens. And then you talk about Tether again. I think the Celsius thing is going to play a role in that. I don't know what exactly it's going to look like. Again, I don't know if it's sanctions or if it's frozen or if maybe there's something else I'm missing on the Tether front that's going to cause it to have maybe to depeg. Was in a space with Scams the other day. You guys may or may not know who Scams is over there on Twitter. Scams Daddy. He's a Pink Panther. Is his PDF or PFP. Hard for me to trust people that don't have the real face on stuff. But anyway, sharp guy. And he mentioned in an actually cordial conversation, which I appreciated, that if Tether were to depeg, maybe that would be what causes some implications for it. So maybe we realized that the backing isn't there and people sold a bunch of it all at the same time and they couldn't cover that. That would be another way that you could have a bank run on Tether and have implications for it. So maybe that's the way it goes out. Again, I just know it's involved in some capacity here that causes the downfall on Bitcoin. So hopefully that answers your question, Wayne. Appreciate you on the super chat and always taking time out of your evening to hang out with us here. I always forget to say this, so I'm going to say it real quick. If you do find value in this, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe, click the notification bell, share this with somebody else. If you think it's valuable for you and you think it'd be valuable for them, it is much appreciated. It does help the channel grow. We're at 70,000 subscribers on YouTube. That blows my mind. Again, just super humbling to have that many people want to hear what I have to say or care what I have to say. So again, appreciate you guys. None of this stuff that we would be doing, that we are doing at Digital Wealth Partners or Digital Ascension Group or in the Mastermind would be possible without you guys. So just want to say thank you. Feel super blessed and grateful for all of the support in the community, and it really does mean a lot. So thank you all. Maris with the super chat, they say, "Hey Jake, hope you're well, legend." Hit me with the legend, man. With your custody, God forbid something happens to the wallet, what would that mean? We'd be screwed to lose all the assets. Are safe because it's in custody. Come to down under. So I explained this to some other wealth managers that actually set up a call with me. I think it was yesterday. So I've moved my rate to $5,000 for 30 minutes, which again seems absurd. People are willing to pay it for some reason. I did that because I was having so many people book at $1,500. And not that I don't want to take my time and meet with people. I just have a lot of priorities and things on my plate that I need to get done. And so I raised the price on that. But anyway, they paid. It was 3 of them that got on the call. And they were asking very similar question, like, what if there's a breach and, you know, Anchorage gets hacked somehow? One, I'll talk about their security. So the way that their backend works, they have their own proprietary blockchain that's a derivative of Copper. So Copper is one of the 3 main providers when it comes to institutional software for custody. The other one is Ripple Custody, which was Medico that they acquired in 23, and then Fireblocks, which many of you know also. Fireblocks uses, and I actually have a full video on this that's coming out, excuse me. Fireblocks uses MPC technology, which does not meet IPF standards or FIPS standards here in the US for what a qualified custodian is required to have. So BNY Mellon does leverage Fireblocks. You've got some other large banks that have used Fireblocks for their infrastructure to hold digital assets, but they normally combine that with another one, either Medico or Copper. Copper is a little bit more cumbersome to work with. It takes a little bit longer for integrations, but that's because it's more robust when it comes to security. They leverage hardware security modules. So these are their own like VRAC or hardware that's in level 4 facilities. And what they do for your wallet, all of these wallets are generated completely separate in your own account, okay, inside of institutional custody. So these are segregated, bankruptcy remote, insured wallets that are in your name. You never lose custody of the assets. All of the assets stay in your custody. Because it's your account. You're the owner of the account, even when you partner with digital wealth partners. So on the back end of that, the keys that are generated for these wallets are never seen by a person. Unlike, you know, somebody that holds their assets with Bitcoin IRA. I Trust Capital, I think, leverages Fireblocks now, which again doesn't meet the standards here in the US for qualified custody. But they are segregated. If it's Bitcoin IRA, they use Digital Trust as their custodian, and they just have ledgers in a level 4 facility that a person goes into at 4 o'clock and then executes the transactions on those. And that's why they're not insured. They have insurance on the infrastructure. They don't have insurance on crime insurance. When you're working with somebody and they're telling you they have insurance on your assets, make sure you're asking them if it's crime insurance. That's one of the other big pieces when it comes to institutional custody. So Anchorage has $100 million on each account worth of crime insurance. So if there's fraud or there's a hack or something happens, you're insured up to $100 million. So anyway, the keys are generated on this proprietary blockchain. They're then encrypted, and then those keys are sharded. Again, no person ever sees these keys. The shards of those keys are then held in randomized locations across the globe inside level 4 facilities on these HSMs or hardware security modules. So there's firmware, there's arm guards, there's barbed wire, there's a bunch of infrastructure in the way of anybody hacking any one of these locations, and they would have to figure out where the keys were held across all the random locations, hack all of them at the same time, get through all the firewalls and firmware that's protecting all this stuff, figure out which HSM they were on, hack that one, and all the other ones all at the same time, bring the shards back together and put them back together in the way that they're supposed to go, and unencrypt those keys in order to execute a transaction. I can't say it's quantum proof, but it's quantum resistant. And that's why they have insurance up to $100 million. and that's also why BlackRock is holding their assets at Anchorage, because it has the most robust security of any custodian in the US. So when you ask me if a wallet gets hacked, these aren't omnibus accounts like exchanges. It would just be one wallet that would be exposed if something, God forbid, something happened, and it wouldn't proliferate to the rest of the client's accounts like it would in an exchange where all your assets are commingled in one wallet. So the losses would be far less. And again, these are all things that the insurance company underwrites in order to, insure it up to $100 million. So, and it's bankruptcy remote. So if Anchorage were to go bankrupt, I don't think that's going to happen. They've got a very strong balance sheet right now, hundreds of millions, doing pretty good. They're not going anywhere, in my opinion. We're not going anywhere. So even if we went out of business, you'd be able to move it to another wealth manager with an account there at Anchorage to manage your assets. So I view institutional custody with Anchorage and what we provide like a three-legged stool. Anchorage is the infrastructure and custody provider with the licenses and the certifications that they have. If they went out of business, another trust bank would step in and manage that infrastructure. If we go out of business, you just move it to another wealth manager on your account. God forbid something happens to you and you pass away, your spouse and your beneficiaries take over your account, and they don't have to know anything about crypto in order to do that. So just like a Schwab or Fidelity account, passes right to the person that you have listed. And we insure that, right? And if we're not around, Anchorage would insure that. So you always have at least one or two legs there to make sure that things are going the right way. This person's asked, what are the fees on institutional custody? So we are like a normal wealth manager at Digital Wealth Partners. We charge AUM fees. So anything less than 5 million is 2%. Anything between 5 million and 10 million is 50 basis points, or 0.5% on an annual basis. And anything over 10 million is going to be 40 basis points on an annual basis. And that's prorated monthly. We do charge the fees monthly. And again, we're working on solutions to make sure we're more than compensating for those fees because we want to provide as much value as we can. And again, I don't want people to have to pay out of pocket for this service. We want to make sure that, one, your assets are protected and they're working for you. And there's no risk of losing the XRP or other digital assets. Like our number one rule at Digital Wealth Partners is don't lose XRP. Number two rule is refer to rule number one. So everything that we're doing there is as low risk as we possibly can do it in order to be able to generate reasonable returns for our clients. So I've rambled on here on this one, but hopefully that helps you understand why we partnered with Anchorage, what their actual infrastructure looks like, and why we're able to get the insurance that we are on the accounts there. Dennis. What's going on, Dennis? Thank you for the super chat. He says, is it fair to calculate the value of Ripple, also counting the price times the escrow, both for now and future price? I've heard Brad state it both ways. Previous to consensus last year, he always kept the escrow separate. He didn't ever add it to the valuation of the corporation. Last year at consensus in 2024 was the first time ever on stage that I heard him include the escrow value in the valuation for Ripple. So I think moving forward here, it's probably safe to say after and again, I'm going off of what Brad says because he's the CEO. I would say it's safe to say that they are including that escrow in the value of the corporation. And there's a lot of different ways you can value a corporation. You can look at EBITDA and use a multiple on that. You could, use discounted cash flows in the future. You could come back with those. You could look at assets that the corporation owns and a multiple off of that. Again, and these, in the market today, I can tell you that Ripple shares are trading somewhere between $90 and $100 a share. Ripple shares are the most liquid private equity, I think, in the world. There's more transactions for Ripple shares and more liquidity for those shares than pretty much any other private equity out there. It's more frequently traded than anything else. So This person's got Jake Claver over here on TikTok. Watch out for scams. I should probably say that. Oh, and I got to give my disclaimer. So we'll talk about the scams first. One, look, we try to do and have check marks on every platform. TikTok, I don't think we've been able to do that yet. So apologize for you guys. This is my real channel. This is me. You can see my hands. I'm not an AI or anything, which people are weirded out about. But there are a lot of fake accounts out there, so be leery of that. I will never ask you about your XRP. I won't message you. It's not me. It's a scam. Please block, report, do all that. And don't send your XRP to anybody that's Jake Claver or any other name, moniker, scam account out there. I will never ask you to send your XRP anywhere, or get in a Telegram or WhatsApp channel or any of that crap. We do have a Discord, so if you want to join the mastermind, I haven't talked about that, but that is the exclusive Beyond Broke mastermind. If you go to beyondbroke.com, you can join that. You can get in for a month for free, and you'll get an email with the correct Discord to join. And all you got to do is put in the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the Discord. And in the mastermind, you get access to private investments, the health share, all the benefits of that community, like-minded people that can help you that might just be a few steps ahead of you in the process. You know, there's going to be a lot of things on the other side of price appreciation. We've done more in real life events for that community than any other community in the XRP community, for sure. I think we're probably on par with the Bored Ape Yacht Club community at this point on the amount of events that we've thrown in real life. We've got multiple coming up here in the rest of 2025. So if you want to be around really cool people that also have significant interest in digital assets and bettering themselves, I would say, you know, that's the community to be a part of. Obviously, I have a lot of biases, and that's okay. So take it with a grain of salt. But you can get in there and check it out for a month for free. Put in the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO. If you don't like it, it's month to month. You can leave at any time. There's no contract. You just unsubscribe. Like it's not, you know, if you can't get into the Discord or you don't like it or for whatever reason, you're not stuck there. But I will say, if you want to lock it in now, before price appreciation, I would suggest that you do so, because on the other side of price appreciation, after a $10 XRP, we are locking it down. There will be no new members for 30 days. And the stringency in which we background checks and a bunch of stuff on people before they're allowed in will be much more stringent. So, and it'll be a minimum of $1,000 a month to participate there in the mastermind group on the other side of price appreciation. So if you want to lock in the prices now, all the prices remain the same for members. So if you want to move up tiers on the other side of price appreciation, you're good to go. All those prices stay locked in. You're grandfathered in if you get in, even with the free month. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you want to be a part of a community of 3,600 people at this point, which is, again, super wild and fantastic, and again, super blessed and grateful for it, to be in a position, you know, to participate with you guys and help provide value for that many people, just super humbling. But anyway, yeah, would love to have you there. And we have done some investments in Ripple through that community. So if that's of interest, can't say or speak to what we currently have going on, but those are some past investments that we've done. And we're directly on the cap table. We don't have exposure for Ripple through Link2. I know there's been a lot of problems on that side. We have a lot of clients that have significant holdings there on Link2, and I can't say much, but I'm hopeful that some of that will be resolved in the near future. So anyway, Michael here with the super chat. He says, "Good evening, Jake. Do you have a time frame for unaccredited individuals to be able to invest and XRP's percentage or amount it would be able to do so?" Michael, I have had my hand slapped by my compliance team. I cannot speak to any specific investments there at Digital Wealth Partners, and I will go ahead and give the disclosure here, which I think this is all stupid, just so you guys know, but like I have to do it. And as we continue to grow AUM, we will have more and more of a spotlight on us. We are the fastest growing RIA in the world, and I really don't want to do anything that's going to cause problems or mess that up, or cause problems for our clients. So I have to be very strict about how I operate and speak about the investments there at Digital Wealth Partners. I personally cannot give you that information. You would have to reach out to your advisor there at Digital Wealth Partners, and they can talk about the opportunities that we're going to be able to provide for non-accredited investors. We do have 2 funds open for accredited investors. One's the growth fund and one's the income fund. We will be paying the first distribution to people on the income fund here in July. I'm just going to say it. They'll be mad at me, but I think the returns are going to be somewhere a little bit less than 2% for the quarter. They're still finalizing numbers here, but those people, if the returns were to continue at this pace, it'd be about 7% a year on your XRP. If it were just to continue at the same cadence, I think that it'll probably be better than that. Again, we're projecting somewhere between 8 and 20% based on the track records of the sub-advisors that we worked with in the past. So if you're accredited, you can definitely reach out and participate. For non-accredited people, unfortunately, you would have to talk to your advisor there at Digital Wealth Partners. I am a little bit more lenient about this conversation when it comes to the mastermind than I am here publicly. Not much, but a little bit. And I do drop things there specific for that community. So again, if that interests you, would love to have you there in the group, and you will get a little bit clearer picture on stuff versus here publicly. Let's see here. And there will be some PR. I'll just say this too about the last comment. You will know who we've partnered with and what we're doing in the near future when it's finalized. And I think you'll be excited about it. So we got Mark. He says, Jake the legend with the flame. Appreciate it, man. There's Wayne. I see you. You just rolled into my inbox there. Who does what you do in Canada? Nobody. Nobody does what we do in Canada. Can you help your northern brother out? Dave from Digital Outlook, your homie, mentioned Netcoins. Should I roll with that or not? We work with many Canadians already. We work with many international people. I would say 20% of our clients are international for Digital Wealth Partners. As long as you have an entity that your assets are held in, we can work with you. It doesn't matter where that entity is registered, where you are geographically. We can work with anybody in the world as long as their assets are held in an entity and you're not a terrorist and you haven't committed fraud. Really, those are the only 2 things that we're worried about. And Anchorage requires that it is inside of an entity. They only work with businesses. So we can do an IRA, and that can be in your personal name because it's inside of a wrapper. We can do a corporation. It could be an S Corp, a C Corp, a limited company, an LLC, whatever makes sense in your jurisdiction. And then trusts as well, pretty much any type of trust. Still working on stuff for foundations. They're a little bit more stringent about how things are managed for foundations. So I got to be a little more careful around that, but that is coming in the near future also. So happy to work with you if you're Canadian. But again, and you might see old Dave around in the near future also, if that's something you're in, if he's somebody you're interested in working with. KJ says, can you give us an overview of how Ripple becoming a bank impacts RLUSD and XRP? Absolutely. So they've issued a stablecoin, and you would expect that most banks will issue stablecoins. Bank of America has already come out and said that they will issue a stablecoin. They're a liquidity provider. Again, Ripple has the prime brokerage, and they have the custody solution with Medico. They've got the trust bank there in New York and the BIT license. And now they're trying to get a federal charter for the banking license. And that's really the last piece for them. Again, some conjecture that I've heard is that they will become the central bank or the next Federal Reserve. I can't state that is absolutely what's going to happen, but this would put them in a position to be that potentially on the other side of this. And ROUSD is, I think, a pilot. And and setting the standard for how stablecoins should be issued and managed. Based on our conversations with Anchorage, it's public at this point that they will be delisting USDC and a couple other stablecoins, and they will be integrating RLUSD in the near future for our clients there, because they do meet the qualifications for the Genius Act and the stablecoin bill. And obviously, Ripple has very vested interest that XRP be adopted as a bridge currency. Appreciation for XRP means their valuation goes up substantially, and their products and services continue to produce more and more income for them over time, including ODL and the other stuff that they do. So them becoming a bank, and again, kind of setting the standard on how that operates with a stable coin and a bridge currency inside of the regulated environment that I think we're walking into, allows other banks to follow that example, and I think will set the trend for the industry. And I think we've seen Ripple go talk to the Treasury before they issued RLUSD, or right after. Makes a lot of sense to me that they're positioning themselves as the leader in this space. We've been to Swell the last 2 years, and that's really what they've talked about. Laying the foundation through digital identity, through custody, through regulation, stablecoin, treasury management, and other financial services for banks and institutions. That's what they are doing. And this is going to continue. Again, retail is not their customer, but I think that retail is going to benefit that's holding XRP substantially. I am way behind on the questions, and I got about an hour left, so I'm going to probably be a little bit more fast-paced on these, because I tend to ramble on about stuff. I don't know if you'll like that or not. I enjoy it. I probably should be a little more concise with my my answers here. We already did this one. It always kicks me up in the chat here. We got Jeremiah. He says, how big a deal is the Fed master account in terms of supply shock? It's a pretty big deal. I think that, again, working with Fed and being a liquidity provider, overnight repo, there's a lot of things that will allow them to do, having that bank charter and that integration. We got Justin. He says, my man, Uncle Danny loved his shout out. That's awesome, dude. Love Uncle Danny, love Justin. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me on the lives. What does Ripple applying to be a bank do for price appreciation? BlackRock needs ETF as soon as possible. Again, price appreciation can't be correlated with Ripple news. Otherwise, XRP is a security of Ripple. There needs to be a distinct, completely different reason other than Ripple for XRP's price appreciation, so that it can never be misconstrued with a security of Ripple. So them applying for a bank charter, you saw it does nothing for the price, and you're not going to get anything off of any Ripple news for price appreciation for XRP. And it's going to be through separate means. It's going to be through a supply shock. It's going to be through the domino theory that I've talked about. The ETF that you mentioned here with BlackRock is a fantastic example. That would be another reason for price appreciation. We saw that in November of 2023 when the trust for the iShares XRP trust for their ETF was filed there in Delaware, and somebody found it and put it out. We saw XRP double in about 30 minutes. Those are the type of news things that aren't correlated with Ripple and other counterparties using XRP. They're going to cause the supply shock and the appreciation. Now, does that benefit Ripple? Absolutely. But again, it's not going to be correlated with any news that Ripple puts out. We've got Kelly Cox. She says, please share a name of reputable crypto IRA comp to you. We can do it. If you want to work with anybody for a crypto IRA, you do need at least 100,000 XRP between your crypto IRA and your personal account or your business for us to work with you. But if you have that much, we would love to. If you don't, probably need to come up with a recommendation. I don't have anybody offhand. We are the only people that will take that in kind. So everybody else will make you liquidate it into cash and then move the cash over. We don't do that. We will move the assets directly so that you don't lose exposure in that transaction. In case price appreciation does happen during that period of time, that would be horrible to have to liquidate your position, wait 10 days to move it over, send cash, and then during that 10-day period, like, price jumps substantially. That'd be horrible. So we take it in kind, and we are the only people that I'm aware of that will transact that way. So wherever you set it up, when it appreciates, we would love to work with you. Group 1 Gavin says, JC, what's up, man? Where do you get your energy to keep looking after sneaky XRP fanatics? Thanks for the update. Hope you have a glorious Americans. Hope you glorious Americans have a wonderful July 4th rundown on AUM fees. I think I already did that. I think I gave you the rundown on the AUM fees a little bit earlier. And yeah, I'm with you. You know, excited for the 4th of July this year. Definitely going to be some fireworks going on. We got that dang newspaper boy. Damn it, Bobby. Reminds me of King of the Hill. Remember, kids, none of this is financial advice. Oh, yeah, I do need to give my disclosure. Appreciate you on the reminder for that. So no statements here are the opinion of Digital Wealth Partners or Digital Ascension Group. These statements are of my own accord and my own opinions and are not any opinions of the firm. Also, nothing here is financial advice. It's only for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please always consult with your wealth management professional, CPA, or accountant before making any investment, legal, or tax decisions. If you need any help with any of those and you need professionals in those areas, we would love to connect you with them. Again, we have the only wealth management group in the world that I'm aware of that will work with you to manage your digital assets and provide you financial advice on those. So Digital Wealth Partners is that company. It's an SEC registered RIA. If you want to go look at the CRD number, if you want to check out their credentials for our advisors, you're more than welcome to do that. They're listed on FINRA's site, so go check it out. And then again, if you want to work with the firm, you just go to digitalwealthpartners.net and use the contact us form, and you can get your own advisor to help you with advice on your digital assets. Sona says, hey, Jake, thank you for everything that you do. I created the Wyoming LLC. I did some research, but would like to hear from you. What are the next steps? So it depends on, you know, what you want to do and how much you have. So let's say you got $100,000 worth of crypto and you set up the LLC, you're in position, you filled out the operating agreement, you've used the assets as a capital contribution to start the business, you've notarized that paper, you just keep that in your possession, you don't have to file it with anybody, and you're going to sit on your hands and wait or continue to buy more XRP or whatever it is when you have the capacity to do so without putting yourself in financial distress. That would be my suggestion. Now, if you already have over 100,000 XRP and it's inside the LLC, again, you would just go to digitalwealthpartners.net and fill out the contact us form. And now that you have the LLC in place, we would love to work with you and help manage the assets, provide institutional custody, advisory, and the ability to earn returns on your digital assets and the ability to borrow against them. We have exclusive agreements with liquidity providers in order to be able to borrow against your XRP. We are not advocating for that, but we have had a lot of people take us up on that, about $15 million in loans against XRP. Most of those have been used to, you guessed it, acquire more XRP. Again, not our advice, but people's decisions. iSpan says, Jake the legend, don't gloss over the Ripple becomes a new Federal Reserve comment. Hey, look, man, I'm just putting it out there. You know, you put things out into the universe and sometimes they happen. Wayne, sorry for being a super chat hog. All good, dude. I appreciate the super chats, but these 2 weeks could be huge for our coins. Is July 14th ISO 20022 deadline for banks a major milestone, and why? Thanks for the time and your questions. Absolutely, dude. And I got your email also. So talked about this in the mastermind, but you need liquidity in these assets or XRP specifically before it can be used alongside that messaging system to make the instant settlement happen. It won't be because of the implementation of that standard that XRP is required. ISO 20022 is just a prerequisite to instant settlement. They're mandating that all of the banks operate on the same messaging standard so that they can then migrate to instant settlement, and you don't have to reconcile data. So as an example, like, I don't know if you've ever uploaded anything into a platform with a CSV file, but you structure data in columns in an Excel sheet, and you have to have it in a certain order for it to upload and populate correctly in a platform. Very similar for the banks, right? So they have to have all of the information about the payment in a specific order, and all of them have agreed on that order, and that is what that ISO 20022 standard is. And so now that everybody agrees on the order, when they get that data, they already know exactly what it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to land and how much money it is and who it's coming from, because it's going to populate in the exact way that they're supposed to receive it. And then they can settle real time, because they don't have to go, okay, well, this was supposed to be here and this was supposed to be here, and I got to figure out what this is because it's not anything that I needed. Because used to, banks just sent messaging however they received it, at whatever standard they operated on. Well, now they have a streamlined way where they're all communicating and speaking the same language, and that allows them to expedite the settlement of payments. So it's not required for it is required for instant settlement, but it does not mean that instant settlement will happen alongside that. Correlation doesn't equal causation type thing. But if there's enough liquidity in XRP and that's implemented, they could absolutely start settling real time once that is streamlined. So hopefully that gives you a better outlook and understanding of like what that actually means and why it matters. Jeremiah with the super chat again. He says, can you speak on the process of tokenization of stocks? Are token prices expected to parallel stock exchange price fairly quickly? So tokenization of stocks. You need an oracle that is a price oracle that's going to provide good data for the smart contracts and the on-chain implementation or tokenization of stocks. And that's why you've seen our XLS 40, which is price oracles on the XRPL. Now, tokenization of stocks really just solves a few things. One, there would be an accounting mechanism across all of the brokerages and clearinghouses, so they wouldn't be able to sell any stocks that they don't really have, like they did with Robinhood and GameStop when there was so much volume on them that they couldn't keep up, and they sold 139% of the shares, and they had to freeze trading and pull stocks back that they never should have given people. So it solves that problem. In addition to that, it would also remove the need for stock splits, because now you would have, 1,000th of a share that you could buy, or 10,000th of a share that you could buy. Whereas in the past, in order to keep stocks affordable, when Amazon got to $4,000 a share, they would do a stock split, do a 20-to-1, and everybody that owned the shares would get 20 more shares for each one that they owned. And now the stock was worth $200 again. And now the average person could buy one share of Amazon. You wouldn't need to do that. So same thing with like Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway shares are six figures. I think they're over $500,000 per share at this point. They've never done a stock split. They've just allowed their share price to continue to increase because they have the annual shareholder meeting, and you have to have a share in order to be able to participate in that meeting. You would be able to get 1/100,000th of a Berkshire Hathaway share, and then everybody could own shares of Berkshire Hathaway again, because right now most people could not afford one share at $500,000, right? So those are some of the problems that tokenization of stocks actually solves. It sounds sexy, but in reality, like, that's what they're trying to do, because it's already a very liquid market. It doesn't provide additional liquidity, but it does provide a streamlined accounting mechanism across all those, and it does allow for fractionalized shares. And I think you're going to see that, there might be multiple networks that get a piece of that. Hedera, I think, could be one of those. You got Polymath, you've got the XRPL and the EVM sidechain. A lot of people working on that. But I do think that XRP, irrespective of if it ends up on the XRPL, that those things are tokenized, will still provide settlement and clearing between the clearing houses and the brokers for the payments between those two counterparties on the back end of the stock market. So when you say our token price is expected to parallel stock exchange price fairly quickly, I don't really understand what that portion of the question means. I don't think that these tokens will be traded on the stock market because they're not securities. Maybe they will be. Maybe I'm wrong. We got Christian. They say, "Hey, sir." He says, "Hey, Jake. What's better, having DWP open a Wyoming LLC first?" So just for some clarification here, DWP is Digital Wealth Partners. It is an SEC registered RIA. It does not do anything for legal services or paralegal services or entity formation or any of that. It is strictly wealth management, institutional custody, and advisory, wealth management, and financial advice. Digital Family Office or Digital Ascension Group is the DBA. Does all of the entity formation, paralegal services, and then works and coordinates with other professionals for the estate planning, CPAs, accountants, tax mitigation strategies, all that. So you are absolutely going to need an LLC before you can work with Digital Wealth Partners. Again, that's a prerequisite. So you would need to go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and look at the services page there. You'd click on LLC formation. And again, you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAG LLC. And that gets you everything end to end that you need for a holding company that manages alternative investments with an allocation to digital assets. This is not a trading company. It's very different. The NAICS code for this is 551112 or 551114. If you want to look either one of those up, then you would know that it's a holding corporation that manages assets. And again, we do it this way specifically for many reasons. Other people that use it as a trading corporation or set that up, you're not going to get the benefit of long-term capital gains tax on these digital assets. So anyway, back to the question here. You don't sell your XRP to it. You use it as a capital contribution to start the business, and you want it to be a single member LLC. And the reason for that is if you do a limited partnership, then each partner is going to have a taxable event in contributing their assets for the equity in the corporation. If it's a single member LLC, then you can move the assets in there with no taxable event. Now, if you're in California, you can qualify for a QJV, which is a qualified joint venture between you and your spouse. There's some other states that also allow for that. Between you and your spouse, you can own a corporation 50-50, but you need to make sure that your state allows for that exemption if you're going to do it that way, because some states don't. And that's why we always just recommend going with a single member LLC. And you can add your spouse as a signer and a manager on the corporation. And most states have really strong spousal rights anyway. So like anything formed during your marriage, your spouse is going to have rights to, okay? Unless you have a prenup that states otherwise. Then after price appreciation, open a dynasty trust, which costs a lot more, and have the LLC sell or gift that into the trust. This is more accurate here. So again, I would challenge you to work with a trust attorney that's seasoned, that understands contract law, which is what trusts are. A lot of people have put sexy names on stuff in order to market them. A dynasty trust is one of those things. It's really just contract law and certain provisions that are put together in a specific way for certain outcomes. But you might want to have a spendthrift provision or something else specific in that dynasty trust that's not going to come standardized with whatever that attorney's put together, that they're calling a dynasty trust. So again, like, just do your research on stuff before you go, buck wild on something. And also anything that says it can mitigate taxes completely or defer taxes in perpetuity, run away. It's a scam. You're going to lose your money. They were like, even if they're okay for now, 10 years from now, it takes 10 years for the FBI and the feds to build a case and then come after people. And then you owe all those back taxes and fees when they unwind all that stuff. So, not naming anybody specifically here, there are some people that I know are in the XRP community that say that they can do this stuff and it's legal. I would strongly suggest that you do some research and talk to educated people before participating in those ecosystems or with those parties. Any type of trust is going to cost more than the LLC, and you do likely want to have an LLC outside of your trust, because if it's done the right way, any income in your trust that's over $15,000 is going to be taxed at 37.5%. And if you've structured it the right way, then you can pass those taxes over to the LLC that's outside of the trust. And then, if it's $250,000 that you earned inside the trust, now your tax bracket's going to be like 24% instead of 37.5%, which is a big difference. And you're going to be able to use, the way you spent that capital to be able to offset those tax implications. And you can quasi transfer XRP from the LLC into the trust over your lifetime by paying the taxes out of the LLC versus the trust and continuing to compound the assets inside the trust. So hopefully that's helpful for you, and appreciate the question. We got Rob. Appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you for this. He says, Jake, can your team help someone purchase $60,000 worth of XRP in one buy? Just a thought. I appreciate your advice. If you are a client, we can do that all day long. And for the cheapest price of anybody on the market, it's only 20 basis points with no spread. So if you are a client, you just wire your money over there to Anchorage, and we will execute the trade for you. It's very simple. We can get it done same day most of the time. So yeah, absolutely would love to. But again, you're going to have to be a client in order for us to do that. If you're not a client, I would suggest you reach out to Kraken for an account there, Kraken Pro, and you can exercise larger orders on that. $60,000 is in a weird spot. Most OTC platforms want you to have at least $250,000 worth of purchases each month in order to set up an account with them. So if you're not quite to that level yet, Kraken Pro, I think, would be my suggestion if you're not a client. We got Dr. Denise. Hey, ma'am. She says, Jake has an amazing educational videos on YouTube. The Beyond Broke Mastermind is amazing. 1 month free. And she's got the code here for us. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the kind words and your support there in the community. And we're really blessed to have you there with us. We've got Honest Aim. What's up, man? He says, Jake, the legend. You too now? He says, fantastic call last night for Carbon 2. So many new members. Fantastic that we're all there. What a great community. Remember, we initially joined for access to your deal flow. Blessings. Yeah, well, we've got some pretty cool stuff there in the mastermind right now that we've got some deals on that I can't talk about publicly. If you're in the mastermind, you know what I'm talking about. I'll say this. On the other side of price appreciation, most family offices have a mission statement, core values, and principles that they invest off of, and they're looking to invest in corporations or technology that are going to actually affect change in the real world and make a difference for people. And the investment that we have there in the community right now is one of those. It's actually going to make a difference for children and parents of those children. And I'm really excited to have that opportunity there in the group and be investing in that corporation. So very nondescript, but it is cool. Gamer Gex says, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most optimistic, rate the possibility XRP going to 3 digits within the next 12 to 18 months. 10. 11, 12, 13. High end of that, brother. That's a long time frame. I think it'll be 4 digits in that time frame. Michael, he says, "Hey, Big J, what's up, man? What's the deal with the SEC putting the stay on Grayscale's ETF after they have just approved? Thank you. You gotta, hold it off just a little bit longer until things are ready. I don't. So here's the deal: they need all of this to roll at the same time in order to get the price appreciation on XRP to the level that they need it to be. Sarah Lee, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, man. And Jessica, also appreciate you. Ween Moon, as soon as these events transpire, which, maybe we'll get some fireworks on July 4th. That'd be great. Claver the legend. Any thoughts on takeaways from Apex? We love you. I didn't get to check out Apex all that much. I know Vet was there. I'll have to talk with him about it and I can report back. Chad, he says, "Hey Jake, have our LLC done working on onboarding at the moment. Very cool. After price appreciation, if we buy a motor coach, and it's my full-time home and office, can I write any of that purchase off?" Absolutely, dude. Yeah. So anything over 6,000 pounds is considered heavy equipment. And if you're using that to travel to locations to meet with people or look at properties or transact business in any way, then it is part of your corporation and expenses, and you should be able to write off 100% of that if Trump gets his way in reinstating the full depreciation under Section 179 of the tax code this year. So even if you put down 20%, you'd be able to write off the full 100% value of that purchase, and that's called accelerated depreciation. Armani, what's up, man? He says, "Jake Clizzo from beyond Brizhoke. Thanks. Thoughts on bank holding XRP during Flare snapshot, staking it and Flare with Vivo, and can Ripple also stake its escrow too, or that's too far-fetched? And is Ripple a bank now?" Ripple's not a bank yet. They own a trust bank. They're in New York, and they've applied for their federal chartered license from the OCC, and I do think they will get it again. No non-bank has ever owned a prime broker, so they have a lot of leverage at this point to get that bank charter. So I do think that is going to happen. I don't know what the time frame is on that. They will be a bank. And I do think that a lot of banks were holding XRP during the snapshot and will be leveraging Flare. I've talked about that in the past. Jamie B, thank you for the super chat. What's up, Big Oak? He says, "Thank you for having kind and generous soul. We appreciate you." Thank you, man. Enjoyed our call earlier. Wish you and your family the best, and excited for the passive income that you guys are going to be receiving in the near future that'll allow you and your spouse to spend a lot of time together, so that you won't have to be working those 14-hour days anymore. I'll keep working the 14-hour days. I'm still young enough to handle it. We got Divine Dragoon. They say, "Will Ripple become a bank, affect XRP? I thought we needed other banks to adopt and utilize XRP. Thanks for all that you do for you and your missus." Thank you, man. Again, I talked about, I wasn't sure that they would go this route because they will be in competition with some of their clients. However, if you wanted to set the standard in an industry for how somebody should operate with a stablecoin and integrate XRP into their infrastructure and facilitate payments between them and counterparties, leveraging digital, distributed ledger technology, this is a great way to do it. It's kind of like the prime broker deal. You're kind of forcing the hand of everybody else, because if you're able to operate at a significantly reduced cost and outcompete everybody else because your products and services are that much better, they're basically going to have to adopt whatever you have. So I think it's a really strategic move on their part. And now that they have that leverage and it's out in the market, I think you're going to see other people move quickly to position themselves so that they're not outcompeted by Ripple. Omar says, "I thought stablecoin bill would pass regardless. Why would oil pressure unless JPAL lower rates, Japan rises rates, and makes sense for cross-border? But I don't know why stablecoin ROUSD." I'm going to take your broken English and try to translate it. I think, and I appreciate the question, not trying to be disrespectful. So the reason oil would cause Japan to raise interest rates is it would cause inflation in their economy. So if energy prices increase substantially very quickly, the only way that the Bank of Japan could combat that would be to raise interest rates to be able to lower that inflation. They'd have to strengthen their currency. And that's what raising interest rates would do in Japan. But again, that would unwind the reverse carry trade. People would be chasing yield, and they would be dumping US treasuries to chase the yield in the Japanese bonds that would be moving aggressively higher off of that news. And it would help stabilize their currency if people were to shift from the dollar into their own currency, and also help their economy and GDP and growth. So they want that. And so still very confident that oil will have a spike at some point in the near future, likely because of a conflict in the Middle East. That's already set up. It's there. It's ready to go. It's just, when is that gonna kick over? So I do think that they will lower interest rates here. They're going to have to in order to spur the economy and economic growth that we're looking to see, especially if we have a big move down in stocks because the reverse carry trade unwinds. People are going to need access to liquidity very quickly. We're going to be in a liquidity crisis. And again, another great reason for them to roll out XRP and instant settlement at that time, to jumpstart the economy and remove frictions and inflation. Kick me up in the chat again here. So we're going to scroll on down. Mark, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the kind words over here on TikTok. We have Omar again. He says, I get RLUSD uses XRP, but if multiple stablecoins are used, what makes sense of XRP and RLUSD special? So I don't think RLUSD will be special. I think, again, it's just setting the standard for how somebody would operate with a stablecoin in the space. Again, Ripple met with U.S. Treasury. Obviously, what they've issued is in alignment with the Genius Act. According to Anchorage, they're going to delist USDC because it's not up to par with RLUSD and how it's been structured and what it's supposed to look like. So again, setting a higher standard for how things are done in the industry. And in addition to that, XRP allows for a neutral bridge asset for settlement. If everybody used stablecoins for settlement, you would just exacerbate the Nostro Vostro accounts. So right now, about $27 trillion is locked up in accounts all over the world for settlements between counterparties. Nostro Vostro means yours and mine. So people take their money, they park it at another bank in the counterparty's currency to be able to settle into that jurisdiction. And so you would just be doubling down on that. So basically, Bank of America would have to park some stable coins at JP Morgan in order to be able to settle into their token and then swap into, JPM coin. They're not going to do that. They need a neutral bridge asset that they can sell into, send the payment, settle it, and swap into the other currency, almost real time, frictionless for pennies on the dollar. And that's still going to be cheaper than the stable coins too, because if you're sending that over ETH, it's going to take 8 minutes to get there. It's still clunky. You might be able to use Solana, but the network goes down. Maybe you're on the EVM side chain, and then you can still settle through XRP. That would be ideal, right? So again, the path of least resistance and least friction and least cost is what the banks are going to use, and that's why XRP, in my opinion, is going to be the main settlement mechanism over the long term. And if they push a ton of liquidity into it using the ETFs and the supply shock, like I talk about, there'll be more than enough liquidity in the DEX for XRP to be routed, the payments to be routed through XRP over any other option. Logan says, I'm 21 years old, intern at TradFi firm. Can I put XRP in Uphold Vault under a, say, Parish LLC like they have at this firm? Not sure what a Parish LLC is. Maybe it's the name of your LLC. Yeah, you could absolutely use Uphold Vault as your cold wallet. A great option. I want to applaud. There's a 16-year-old out there, and I don't know if they're going to ask the question tonight or not, but they've been going back and forth with us on social media, that has a pretty big bag of digital assets. So congrats to them for putting themselves in a position so early on in life. In addition to that, they asked about cost of setting up a wallet on the XRPL, which is a great question. So right now, it used to be 10 XRP just to set up a wallet on the XRPL. Now, through voting, they've dropped that to 2 XRP, but there's still a ton of wallets that were set up with 10 XRP. At some point in the future, I think that they will probably burn all of that XRP that's just sitting there in wallets in order to continue to accelerate price appreciation, and remove those wallets that are not in use. But I do think, as the price appreciates, if XRP is $1,000 or $10,000, it could be $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, $20,000 just to set up a wallet on the XRPL. So your wallets in and of themselves may actually end up being pretty valuable in the future if you have multiple of them. I have like 13 or 14 wallets that still have a little bit of XRP in them that you might be able to sell other people just so that they can participate on the network in the future. So he asked, is that realistic? And it absolutely is. The only way that they would change that is if they voted again to reduce the cost to open a wallet. I don't think they are going to do that. If this is meant for institutions and the price is going to the heights that I think it's going to go to, it actually makes a lot of sense that there would be some barrier to entry or threshold just to establish a wallet on the network. So again, just want to say kudos to them for positioning themselves at such a young age, investing in digital assets, and then in addition to that, great question about setting up the cost associated with that for wallets on the network in the future. We got Travis. He says, "Hey Jake, in your opinion, thank you for the super chat, Travis." He says, "In your opinion, what would be the main catalyst coming in the short term here that would break XRP $10 Fedwire appeal drop? Thanks." So again, nothing to do with the case is ever going to affect price. You've already seen the appeal dropped. Ripple's already stated that from their side. I do think that you're going to see the SEC drop their side of the appeal, but I think that'll be post price appreciation. Fedwire, again, also not going to cause price appreciation. You need enough liquidity in XRP before Fedwire goes live in order for them to leverage XRP to settle those transactions. The only thing that's going to cause price appreciation for XRP is supply and demand. Normal economics. So the total supply available on the secondary market has to be significantly less than the amount of demand for the asset on the secondary market. So ETFs, treasury, FOMO from retail and high net worth individuals because of announcements for partnerships for Ripple, in addition to banks and exchanges also needing XRP to settle payments and transact real time. I think that will orchestrate all of those things as all together, and you will see price move far beyond $10 in just a 24-hour period. I think it'll run up substantially when all of those catalysts hit at once. And until then, we'll probably just trend here at $2. Michael, he says, "I received a Google email tonight telling me Jake Claver subscribed to your YouTube page. I don't have one." It wasn't me. There's a lot of scams out there. Please be aware of that and mitigate those risks as they show up. Warren says, "I'll be receiving an inheritance IRA from Merrill Lynch. I'm not sure how much or what is in it. What moves should I be looking into as soon as I take possession? Leave it all at Merrill Lynch, move to iTrust, cash out, buy XRP." So it's an inherited IRA. You can only have it for 10 years anyway, before you're going to have to cash it out. There are going to be tax implications on that, so just be aware of that. I don't know how old you are, Warren. Based on your name, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but I don't know a whole lot of people that are named Warren that are my age. I'm going to assume you're probably closer to 45 or 50, maybe a little bit older than that. If you are close to retirement, it might be a good idea just to leave it in the IRA and do what you talked about and move it to iTrust, or you can move it over to us at Digital Wealth Partners if it is north of $250,000. We would love to help you purchase XRP inside of that, and then we could work with you. If you don't necessarily want to go all in on one asset and you want to diversify, you could get exposure to XRP through the futures ETFs that exist. Those are meant for trading. They're not really meant for holding. So just be aware of that. If you do think that there's going to be a big move higher in XRP in the short term, it might be worth investing in XXRP as a leveraged long ETF to be able to get those gains and then sell that off. You are inside of an IRA, so that's a tax-deferred vehicle. So any trades you're making there don't have tax implications. So you could actively trade that account and do really well. If you cash it out, again, beware of the tax implications and the fees, depending on how old you are. And then if you did buy XRP with that cash, you would have full access to it. So the other disadvantage of holding it in an IRA is you won't be able to borrow against it ever, because it's a qualified account. You can't take margin or borrow against a qualified account. So again, these are all just some considerations. I would probably talk to a wealth manager. You can set up a call with our team and they can walk you through all your options and kind of explain this to you in further detail. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I know enough to be dangerous. So again, just some guy on the internet, not financial advice. Please consult with a wealth manager before making your investment decisions. But just some things to think about to educate you with when it comes to that. And I appreciate your question and your super chat. We got crazy legs, Chris. Do you the stinky leg, Chris? He says, yo, Jake, do you mess with small bags, 1,000 XRP plus? We will, for sure. So again, this is another benefit of the mastermind. Inside the mastermind, we will be working with people that have $1 million in their portfolio on the other side of price appreciation. Anybody that's not in the mastermind, you'll have to have at least $20 million to work with Digital Wealth Partners and Digital Ascension Group. So, and that's on the other side of price appreciation at $10 XRP. So if, you had $100 XRP and you had 1,000 XRP, well, you need $1,000 XRP. So if you had $1,000 XRP and you got 1,000 XRP, that's $1 million. And at some point in the near future, if I'm right, we will definitely be working with quote unquote small bags, especially if they are a member there of the mastermind. So again, if that interests you, if you, don't necessarily have a ton of investment here, but you do want to work with us in the not too distant future when prices appreciate, we would love to have you in the mastermind. Again, you can use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the community to check it out and lock in the prices before price appreciation, I think in the near future. Scott, what's going on? He says, Jake, I'm a buy and hold investor. I love it, dude. That's exactly, just keep DCAing. Don't tell people how much you got, Scott. He says, I got 45K XRP plus other qualifying utility cryptos. Been watching you for a minute. Think we would be a great fit. Definitely like-minded. Can we work together? Unfortunately, we cannot run any other promotions at 50,000 XRP. We've done that multiple times to be able to get people with similar amounts in to work with us at Digital Wealth Partners. So in the short term, the answer would be no. We would love to help you set up an LLC to manage your digital assets and mitigate taxes and set you up for success on the other side of price appreciation. And then again, on the other side of price appreciation, we would absolutely love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners, get you in institutional custody, provide you yield and return on your assets, allow you leverage against it, and give you an advisor that can help you with all those decisions. And again, for you guys, if you do want to set up the LLC, you can use the code 50OFF50, OFFDAG LLC, get you everything you need end-to-end, articles of organization, EIN number, certificate of good standing, virtual office, registered agent, template for your operating agreement, which would normally cost you, $1,800 to $2,500 by itself from a normal attorney. You get the corporate veil protection from Laughlin, which is a video that we just put out recently, and on and on. There's a ton of benefits for working with us on the LLC. And again, you get all of those things for just $2,000 if you use that code I just mentioned, which would normally be $4,000 or more. We are at an hour and a half, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through the rest of the super chats here so we can wrap it up by 11. Jason K says, I envision a world where XRP is 10,000 a token. I would agree. And where DWP would work with someone who only has 1,000 XRP. Yep, you got it. Or would that person have to wait till Ripple custody down the road? Ripple is not going to work with retail. I can tell you that. They actually kicked us off their platform there at Standard Custody, even though we had $30 million worth of XRP in custody with them at the time. When I talked to their team about partnering on ODL and working with them to provide yield for retail, their answer to me was, why do we need your XRP? We have 4.8 billion. So that told me I needed to go figure it out myself. And so we did. And now they've come back around a little bit. I think maybe later on, there might be some way to work together with them, but they definitely won't be working with retail. They will only be working with institutions or people that own businesses that manage digital assets. And they will definitely only be working with large whales. They will not be working with people that hold 1,000 XRP. But we will, if that's something you're interested in. We've got Chad again. Appreciate you, man. He says, major props to you and your team. Jonathan and Florentia have made the legal paperwork a breeze. Thanks goes out to them. Thank you for the flowers, man. I always enjoy getting that. I will give those to the team. And yeah, wouldn't be where we are today without our employees. We've got 30 employees at this point, which is mind-blowing. Again, super blessed and grateful to have the team that we do, and definitely wouldn't be able to do it without them. So thank you for the flowers, and I will pass those along. Thomas says, hey, Jake, I love the authenticity of you and your team. Without a supply shock, will XRP grow slowly to $1,000 or will price remain good, but not great? It'll still be flat. It's not going to get any better from here. The volume that's on it currently is not retail. It's institutions buying for the spot ETFs. And that's the only reason we're at $2. So yeah, there's no way at all that it's ever going to get to $1,000 without a supply shock, unfortunately. And it won't be a slow rise. It will be off to the races when it happens. Adam C says, can you speak on paying crypto taxes, concerned about profits on exchange? Do you recommend something like Coin Ledger? I hold a decent. Yeah, so any assets that you're holding on exchanges at the end of the year, you're going to get a 1099 DA, which is a 1099 digital asset form from whatever exchanges you're using. So all of those will send those off to you. And then I would use Coinly or Coin Ledger, like you mentioned here, and attach your cold wallets along with the exchanges to that. You could also use Node 40 is another good option if you do hold larger amounts of crypto, and they can help you mitigate your taxes and work back through staking pools and a bunch of other crazy stuff if you have that. If you're just kind of a buy and hold person and you trade, swing trade stuff, then I would recommend, Coin Ledger or Coinly, and just connect your wallets. And again, use your 1099 DA that you're going to receive at the end of the year with your CPA. We've got Min's Twins. They say, hey, Jake, join Carbon One. Awesome. Saw Donald Trump spoke about 30 or 35% tariffs on Japan. Could this be what triggers the carry trade? It's possible. Maybe they're going to get back at the U.S. if we implement that and say, we're dumping U.S. treasuries. Possible. I don't think that it's going to unwind the carry trade. I would have to think about that a little bit more. I haven't given it a whole lot of thought, to be honest with you. But I appreciate the insight in the super chat, and I will ponder on it and get back to you. Paul Dean says, hey, Jake, my question is, if the ETFs go live, is it possible that XRP being used to fund the ETFs will be derived from dark pools Therefore, there wouldn't be any price shock. Is that a possibility? Only as long as the dark pools have liquidity or the amount of XRP needed to fund that. Once the liquidity dries up there and for OTC, and the demand is still insatiable, they will have to move to the secondary market. And there's only less than 2 billion XRP, probably less than that. I think less than 1 billion XRP at this point available on exchanges for purchase. And so with that, it's going to dry up very quickly and drive price much, much higher. There's not a ton of liquidity in dark pools, even though, you know, that doesn't affect price, and neither does OTC trades. A couple more super chats, and we're going to wrap it up here. We got Nash from Vegas. They say, legend. What's up, man? Shout out to the crypto boys. We watch every live. Quick question. Explain why not. It's good move for Ripple applying for the national bank license. Thank you for all you bring us. Been over this a lot tonight. So I think we've kind of answered it here. But again, this is kind of the last piece in the puzzle for them. It's going to slow them down once they get that federal charter, and that's why I think it's the last thing that they've done. But again, you know, them doing this and positioning themselves, they could be the new Federal Reserve, they could be the new central bank with the XRP and escrow here in the U.S. Again, that's complete speculation on my part. I have nothing that backs that up. I'm just some guy on the internet that talks about stuff, and most of the time I'm wrong, so don't listen to me. And then the other benefit is them setting the standard for the industry and how a bank should operate using stable coins and XRP to settle transactions and provide liquidity and provide settlement through their prime broker and all of the other things that they've orchestrated over the last 2 years with the acquisitions that they've made. So, yeah, I think it's a very good thing for Ripple, especially for people that hold equity in Ripple. And those that are holding XRP as well. What's your thought on the SEC putting a hold on the Grayscale ETF for XRP ADA and SOL? Again, I think they need to kick the can just a little bit further. My phone has died, so TikTok is out. So I apologize for TikTok. Hopefully, they move over here to YouTube and over here on X. Sorry. I normally have my charger plugged in, but I didn't have it going tonight. Abrasive Unit. Oh, crazy name. Awesome name. What is the major catalyst that you're expecting that will kick off XRP into overdrive? Also, my XRP safe on Robinhood. No, get your XRP off Robinhood as soon as possible. Do not hold XRP on exchanges. If it's on an exchange, get it to a cold wallet or institutional custody. Please, 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 please listen to me and get your assets off of exchanges. Exchanges are like public restrooms. You get in there, you do your business, and get out, okay? Cold wallets are where you should be holding your stuff, not warm wallets, not Atomic, not Exodus. Those have been hacked before too. Cold wallets or institutional custody. Zaman is a good option for XRP, along with Decent. Would be the two things that I would recommend. But Zaman's charging large transaction fees now, so I'm not overly excited about that. If one of my business partners rolls out their wallet in the near future, I'll be telling you all about that. So excited about that one. Wait on oil. I'm still waiting on oil to spike, and then everything will roll from there. We've got Willie Plank. What's up, man? He says, do you send requests and messages on Discord? I've gotten requests from 3 different Jake Claver accounts. No. I will never message you directly on Discord. If you want to message me, I will respond to your question, but I will never reach out to you. We say this in every single town hall. It's also in the video and the messages that you get when you sign up for the Discord. There are lots of people trying to scam people there in the Discord, so be aware of that. I would just turn off, and again, we walk you through this when you join the Discord on how to do this, but how to turn off messages from anybody that's outside the mastermind. There on Discord. So I would circle back to the email that you originally got when you signed up, and you should be able to walk through that and make sure that you're removing the possibility of fake accounts messaging you. I've literally done everything that I can to mitigate that risk. I don't control Discord. If I did, then I would just remove those accounts, but unfortunately I can't. We even have some people working on that. So the people that are scammers should be very concerned about being arrested in their country in the near future. So if you're watching this, I would stop doing what you're doing. Once my opportunity to work with you opens, Sean Sides, hey man, my bag hits. I can't wait to move to Carbon One and the mastermind. Tremendous value there. Even at the social level, thanks for everything. Let's go. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for the kind words. And again, super blessed and grateful to have you there in the community. If you guys do want to join the community, here it is right here. You can use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the mastermind. Check it out. Again, month to month, no commitment. If you don't like it for whatever reason, you can roll out. Or you can stay. I think you're gonna find a lot of value. We have 3,600 people there. Like 3,600 people aren't wrong. You know what I mean? There's obviously something pretty good there, and we've made it very economical and reasonable for the price point. Silverado, man, that's what I'm talking about, dude. Chevy. How much info do you know, but can't talk about? A lot. A lot. A few NDAs. I say what I can. Legend, don't forget about disclaimer here. Appreciate that, brother. I did it a little bit earlier. I got it on there, but I really do appreciate the good looking out. We got A-Prod. He says, hey, Jake, something weird with Stellar, not even one ETF filed. Even HBAR has some filed. Is XLM part of a bigger plan? No. Definitely important. Hyperledger, super important. Especially for anything that's retail facing, merchant services. I think they're going to drive liquidity into that through stablecoins, both that and Hedera versus an ETF and supply shock. And maybe some stuff will bleed off of XRP into these other ecosystems through the wormhole and Axelar and some of the other integrations that they have. As more real world assets are tokenized on the XRPL and then shared into other ecosystems, that liquidity should move out. And eventually they'll have batch transactions also. So you'll have other people that settle a bunch of transactions and then settle one large lump sum through XRP. For all the money, baby. That's what we're talking about. Hi, Jake. I thought you were going to have an interview with the CEO of Uphold. So I'm not going to have Simon on. I have talked to Simon in the past. He is great. This will be with their marketing team that I'll be talking to in the near future, Friday this week. And then you guys will see that episode out. I don't know if we'll get it out over the weekend or it might take a little bit longer. Zeno says, hey, Jake, learning here. At least 25% LTV on 5 million passive income doesn't seem to always cover the loan plus modest living. Do you have a rule of thumb on when and how to borrow versus relying on yield? Depends on, so the infinite banking concept is predicated on an asset continuing to increase over time in value. So like in a life insurance policy, the cash value of your investments in stocks, you anticipate to increase at about 7% per year. Which gives you a double, or 10% per year if you're in the S&P 500, which gives you a double in 7 years. It's a rule of 72. So that's why you continue to leverage that. And if you took a portion of that loan and put it into an annuity that made the interest payments for you, you could take the rest of that and put it somewhere else and generate returns or buy a property or just live off of it and continue to draw down that margin over time. You might pay for reinsurance with another annuity that you set up to pay the premiums on that, so that that line of credit or debt that you borrowed against those assets is paid off upon your death. And you can continue to up that over time as you borrowed more and more, all tax-free. I would probably be closer to 40% LTV, and maybe even greater than that, depending on the stability of the asset and your known outcome. Like if you knew something was going to continue to appreciate, then you'd probably leverage the whole thing. So again, if XRP gets designated a tier 1 asset, I think that you'd be able to borrow up to like 90, 95, 100% against it because it's riskless. And and will continue to appreciate in value. And then you would absolutely be able to put a large portion of that to work to be able to generate enough yield to live off of, in addition to, you know, funding your lifestyle and servicing the debt. Omar, so was XRP chosen to settle the bond market? Is that what the DEX and zero counterparty risk and Ripple trying to be a competitor to the Fed? Or is that why Ripple is trying to be a bank? All of the above, Omar. All of the above. I think that's a very astute observation that you've made there, and I appreciate your super chat. Talked about that one. Let's see here. Get on down to the bottom of the chat here, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight in the next 9 minutes. Already went through this one. It always kicks me up here in the chat. So weird. And appreciate you guys on all these good questions. Everybody here taking time out of their evening to spend some time with me is much appreciated. Neil says, good evening, Jake. I think Trump has more in mind than he passes on for the big, beautiful bill on the 4th, like maybe oil. Yeah, I would agree, Neil. Thank you for the super chat, and excited for that bill to hopefully pass in the near future. And we are through all the super chats, and TikTok's dead over here. I would normally jump to that. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you for taking time out of your week to spend some time with me here on the channel. If you did find value in this, please, please, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with other people. It is much appreciated. If you do want to participate in the mastermind, again, the code for the free month there is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. It's at the top of the screen here. In addition to that, if you want the LLC to manage your digital assets and you want to work with a trusted party to do it, we do everything end to end for you for $2,000. You go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAG LLC. Get you everything all in for $2,000. And that is a prerequisite if you do want to work with us at Digital Wealth Partners to manage your digital assets, get returns, and be able to borrow against your digital assets. And again, get some of the pretty cool products that we're going to be announcing in the near future. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and we will see y'all on the next one.